Hey, what's up, guys? It's Rico here, CEO of Social in Asia, host of Main China podcast and the Sourcefy in Asia YouTube channel. Back with another video. I'm now hanging out with China Mike, my business partner. And in this video / podcast, we're talking about what's happened in the last 6 days with COVID-19 medical supplies. There's a huge demand for supplies around the world. Obviously, the US got hit pretty hard with infection rates. Europe has been suffering for the last 2.5 weeks or so. South America is beginning to get hit. Africa is beginning to get hit. We're talking about the manufacturing climate, how the factories are stretched thin, the buyers are skeptical. We're in between, communicate both sides of the equation, and trying to also hard to push through, product that is certified and legitimate, but at the same time trying to prove to the buyers that we're real. So it's been a hectic week. So that's what this video is about.
I've been up early this morning, thinking back. How can I not see this and that? Last night was a different man, and I feel it now. Stop thinking mad. Cups of tea, mixing tracks, centre half, instant bang. Go together like chips and ham, and I know the weather like England's whack. Grab my coat, switch my hat, ring my girl, link at gaff. Yeah, I should have been saving stacks, but I spent it on new trainers. And why not do up the flat? Get a credit card and buy the new Mac. At least that way I'm being productive still. My girlfriend can't say jack. Should go gym, get wham. Just wanna do music and jam. In too deep for me to move back. Love one another. Give you one but you just want another. Hold on, where's my jumper?
What's up, man? First off, on average, how many hours per day have you gotten in terms of sleep for the last 6 days?
So last night, do you know what time we got off that call? I feel like it was 2:30 my time.
Yeah, something. Yeah, because it would have been, for me, it was around 3:30-ish. So I think I'm 13 hours ahead of you, yeah.
So I went to bed at about 3 a.m. and I woke up at like 8:15.
I'm just checking the time of the last message you sent me before you went to bed. Yeah, the last message was around 2 p.m. for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to bed at probably like 3 a.m. I woke up at 8:15, and I would say that was nice. so that was the most sleep I've gotten in the last.
Oh yeah, but by the way, the last message was, "Hey, I'm on Zoom," and then you didn't reply.
Yeah, no,
and then you came on to Zoom, and I was like, "Why are you still awake?" I was like, "Go to sleep."
Yeah, but yeah, to answer your question, not much. We've been getting a couple cat naps in here and there, 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
it's been a whirlwind, man. It's been constant action from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. I'd say right now it's pretty chill. It's Sunday here in Chicago, and my phone hasn't been ringing too much today, so I think today's the day of rest, perhaps. And yesterday evening, we had our internal stuff talking to the people in our network, but it wasn't crazy from like an incoming call inquiry perspective.
For me, in general, it's been on average about 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day for the past 6 days. Saturday, I stayed up more than 24 hours. I went to sleep at like 4 or 5 p.m. Woke up at 9 or 8:30. Then again went to sleep at I slept at 3 a.m. but I slept from 3 to 12. So I was like, no. I slept 7 hours, so from 3 to 11. So, but I feel much better today. Like I feel significantly more refreshed and be clear. And yeah, like you said, it hasn't been as crazy today. I've been more sitting down, like doing more research, thinking about how we can organize the research a little bit more. We still had like fucking 6 calls today from internal calls to potential client calls and things like this. It's one of those things, because of the sense of urgency. It's like, I can't just, I'm going to work, 9 hours today and then go to bed. It's like people need, and especially because we're dealing with China, then US, and we're in between, we have to make sure that the information is reported in a timely manner, and then I have to be available. You have to be available to sort of consult and decisions that we would take, a couple of days to make, we have to make in a few hours, so.
Yeah, or less. It's the first time I've ever been in a situation from the sourcing business perspective, where other than people in our internal, where we're talking through strategies and how to best manage situations, when we're talking to potential inquiries, buyers, it's the first time ever where I've been like this, where people are calling me and it's, what can you do right
now? Yeah, exactly.
It's not a brainstorming call. It's I'm in this position where I need these things immediately. Like, what are you able to provide?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the more you get on the phone and the more you're talking to these people, the more sense of urgency that we're starting to feel. And, we're starting to feel the pressure from both sides, from the people all across the world who need this stuff and from the people in China who are trying to make it, telling us that materials are going down. They're getting completely booked. We're not going to be able to make an order until, some people are saying till next year, till after summer. Like, there's no way you're getting in anymore. So it's really stressful. And I think, both of us just want to be able to make sure that we can get as much of this stuff out to these heavily impacted areas as soon as possible.
What were we talking about just now? You're
Hey,
saying,
Rico.
Go ahead.
Rico,
Yeah.
I just want to pick it up. I just want to see what happens here.
All right.
1 second. Mike?
Yeah, this is part of what's been going on, like phone calls constantly throughout the day with our broker. Brokers, plural.
That's right.
And also potential customers. Maybe Mike, mute your microphone right now. I'll continue talking. I'll mute his microphone.
What specific specs do you need?
I was trying to get into it, like when we're saying we've been working, like we've been sleeping 3-4 hours a day. We're working 20 hours a day. I'm in the Philippines. Our office is in China. Mike is in Chicago. We have brokers in New York and Toronto and other parts of the States. And obviously the buyers are from all over the US and also Europe. So Europe is fine because typically morning in Europe is, 9 a.m., 8 a.m. And that's like, 2 p.m. and the afternoon here. I'm in the same time zone as China, which is why I'm in the Philippines right now. So Europe is fine. Communicating with Europe is fine. But then with the US, it's like we will get certain requirements or requests during the nighttime in China. So I have to communicate that to the team in China. But at the same time, I want to be awake with Mike because obviously we're business partners. So we have to make decisions together and we have to make decisions quickly. So I'll stay up late to hear what's going on with potential buyers and questions that the brokers have for us in the US. And then me and Mike will then have conversations discussing the possibilities and the issues and how to approach next steps, which I'll then in the morning try to communicate with the China team. But at the same time, Mike also wants to be involved in the communication with the China team, right? Because we're going to make sure that even if I'm talking to our China team and our project manager or operations manager says, hey, but have you thought about this issue from a manufacturing standpoint? Then Mike and I and operations team have to then discuss what possible solutions we can come up with, especially in a climate like this. So I'll give an example, and I want to talk a little bit more about this when Mike gets off this call, but we had inquiries last week about medical kits. And, on one hand, I understood the necessity for them. And when I say medical kits, the medical testing kits, because we were thrown into this, like it wasn't something that we've been doing. It wasn't something that we're researching. You then go, okay, there's a need for medical kits and let's see if we can get these medical kits from China. And, our team is coming back to us and saying, by the way, it's illegal to produce and sell these medical kits out of China unless it's a government-owned entity. Not like the N95s, the factories got taken over. So there were privately owned factories that then got, managed by the Chinese government. But it wasn't necessarily illegal to export the N95s if they were legitimate and coming from factories that are NIOSH, which is a CDC standard approved. But for the medical kits, that's one of those where they're like, no one is allowed to export medical kits unless it's coming from us. And a lot of people still try to do that. And a lot of fake medical kits got out. I think there was an article from what happened in Europe where I think it was France or Italy that had had to reject. They had something like the medical kits that we're getting had like an 80% failure rate or something along those lines, where the testing was just not working. And my guess would be that they probably purchased those kits from a privately owned factory or a trading company that took advantage of the need and jumped into the market early and sold those kits. I think there was another article today about 600,000 KN95s being rejected in Europe as well. And they were saying that they were CE certified KN95s, but they just didn't match the standard of what they're used to in the hospitals. The masks weren't fitting correctly. They could tell very early that that wasn't the quality that they were used to. Now, the thing about that is, like, I don't know enough about that situation specifically to say whether, this was a factory that was actually CE certified that just produced poor quality. Because one thing I was thinking about earlier today is, like, this demand that is being put on the Chinese factories, they might want to do the production to the best of their ability, but the reality is when you stretch people thin and they don't have the resources, they have to expand quickly. When you expand or scale a business faster than they're used to, and it's urgent, and people are dying and people are sick and doctors are operating on patients without any sort of protection, mistakes are bound to happen. Forget about the current situation, but even just in business, for example, if we as a company had to expand to 1,000 employees or 500 employees in the space of a week, 2 weeks, there's going to be some mistakes in communication, in management, in oversight, in HR. There's going to be some issues. So that obviously is going to happen in the manufacturing space. So I don't know if those KN95s, the 600,000 that were poor quality, whether it was a situation where there was a fake certificate and whoever bought them kind of either used somebody else's certificate or didn't do quality control, or the factory was legitimate and do their own internal QC structures and had to expand very quickly. I don't know if that's the case.
Sorry about that.
Mike's back. I was just talking about some of the issues involved with expanding really quickly when it comes to manufacturing and such. But
I was just on a call there, and I think I could add to that in terms of this call. So that was somebody, we had posted a photo of the isolation gowns as a product that we could source, and I don't know how to say the word. It's polyethylene.
Polyethylene, yeah, PE.
Polyethylene. So they're asking.
It's a type of plastic, basically.
Type of plastic, yeah. So they're asking me for detailed specs. What kind of specs do you guys have on the gowns? And I really don't have, from all of the research and all the factories, I don't have like detailed specs on these gowns. They're really
also because we just got those quotations like less than 48 hours ago. Like,
right.
This is a Saturday, Sunday when, they're still doing mass production, but the sales team has to take a day off, right? Like the sales reps and the people at the factory that would be able to provide that information, they have to go home to their families.
Coming back to the bigger issue that we've talked about that's kind of holding up this whole process is, when people come to SourceFind Asia under normal circumstances, they know what they want, or at least they know what they want to some extent. And, through our online systems and all the content we've created, we kind of encourage people to do a little bit more due diligence, fill out the onboarding sheets, tell us as much as possible about their business, about the product. Do they have examples? And that's why this has been extremely stressful, because, I always used to say, I'm sure I've said it before to you, Rico, or on the podcast, in my early days of sourcing, especially before we built out a lot of the systems, people would often think that we're just a giant Walmart.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, what do you guys have? Well, I mean, from what I've seen, we can make 30 different gowns, or at least 10 different gowns, and there's 4 to 5 styles of each of those gowns, and they all have different specifications. So it's like
different AAMI levels. There's like level 1 to 3. It's like, or level 1 to 4.
Required to have more significant testing and standards being met. Some of them are literally just a plastic sheet. So it's a little bit not frustrating, but just like tiring to have to try to, you're dealing with these people who need something immediately, but they have zero idea of the process. They are like doubting what we're saying. They're doubting our credibility, whether they're consciously doing it or not. And you're trying to, instruct them how this process works along the way. It's really difficult to manage, especially when you're talking about these buyers from hospital groups or, people who are overseeing the purchase of this stuff. It's like almost no due diligence into the products, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of units that they're requesting, and they don't know anything about it. And they're looking to us to teach them about what they need. Sometimes it's overwhelming.
And the thing is, like, it's like I was saying this when you're on the call, besides commenting on how this has been a typical thing where I'll be on the phone, I'll be on Zoom with you.
I gotta go.
And I was just, I didn't even say this, but my Zoom is just on the entire day. Like I just leave it on the whole day, and people just jump in and out.
24-hour Zoom channel.
I'm sure at least 50 to 100 people have my personal Zoom link. So if you're one of those people, you can join in right now. But that's been like the typical thing with me and Mike, is because Mike is dealing with talking to the buyers and the brokers in the US, where we're talking like this and you jump off like probably 20 times in the space of a couple hours. It's a very unique situation, like you said, because these potential buyers are leaning on us to tell them what they need. But in a typical situation, we have a process where people consume our content usually, and in our content we always tell people, do your own research, you should be the expert of your product. Then when they contact us, we have questions. I'm sure this has happened a bunch of times where somebody came to the website after maybe listening to a podcast or getting a referral or whatever, and then went to the contact us form and was like, I don't know how to answer like 60% of these questions, and then had to go back to the drawing board and do their own research and then come back and then answer the questions. Then we usually book a call where in the call we discuss what you filled out. We discuss what we think would be the manufacturing approach, whether this is the right time for you to get started with manufacturing. Maybe there's other things you need to do first before you start manufacturing. After the call, we send you another sheet, which is more detailed for you to fill out with your details on your product. And all those steps weed out a lot of people, and also it allows us to understand exactly what you need, so we're not wasting time when we're researching, and we can get the product that you want to the exact spec, because at the end of the day everything can be made in China. It's just like, how much do you want to pay for it, and how detailed are you at explaining what you want?
We're trying to offer a wide variety of products that have a wide variety of variations between each one of them. And as we've tried to instruct the people that we're working with and the clients, the potential buyers that we're talking to, our normal process for something like this would be 1 to 2 weeks per product.
It wouldn't even just be that. It would be 1 to 2 weeks for the vetting process of the client, not even the product, like of the client, the back and forth of communication and stuff.
And then there's the sourcing report. We offer sourcing report services. There's that aspect, and our usual quotations is minimum 1 week, right? Maybe.
Minimum 1 week if it's a product that we already sourced before, or we have similar experience with different products that are similar to what that person wants, right?
Now we're trying to vet a dozen factories for each product in 24 hours. It's just like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's been a really roller coaster process. Sometimes it's really exciting. Sometimes we feel like we're making so much progress and really doing a great thing. Sometimes, you just want to start banging your head on the wall.
And the other aspect of this is we're talking about products that would usually be purchased from pre-approved suppliers, right? Like, we don't deal for the most part, we don't deal in products like that. We don't have like government contracts where we're constantly making, medical supplies or something along those lines. We deal with usually privately owned companies or startups, and small to medium sized businesses that are producing their original design of something that fulfills a personal need. It's not necessarily a public need in that sense. Like the supply for these products, I mean, you talk about a mask like an N95 Neo certified, FDA approved mask, CE approved mask. No one uses that on a regular basis. Like this, the average person doesn't use that mask on a regular basis. This is all medical professionals. So I would assume that, in the US, there's in any given moment, what is there, like a couple 100,000 of those in stock? Like,
Yeah,
why would they even need to be more than, like, they don't usually need those that much.
duty calls, my friend.
Another one. So it's like 11:51. I'll probably, after this podcast / YouTube video, probably have to talk to Mike about the calls he's been having. I want to try to sleep earlier today just because I want to hit Monday hard. Like, it's been madness. So, in order to be, I'm afraid of like burning out. So in order to not hit a wall, you gotta sleep a little bit earlier today. But let's see how these calls go, and let's see if we can finish up this podcast.
Sorry, man.
All right, what's going on?
That was brokers. Just more of the same. People are just terrified that people are out there to scam them and going to take their money and run away. And why would I need to pay 100% up front? That's insanity. All you can do is just offer, the same outline of how we conduct business to everybody. I think one thing I've been trying to highlight to people is, I mean, we're not going to be able to do it to the full extent that we do with our normal clients because of the situation, the inability to travel, the restrictions of entering the factories, how busy they are. But I do think that throughout this production process, we're going to be transparent with the people who are buying through us.
Yep.
So, and I've just been trying to reassure people of that, how do we know this is going to arrive here in 14 days? You're not going to put the order in and then not hear from us and just hope on day 14 that this is all going to go through. You're getting day-to-day updates. Obviously, we need a couple days to get all the money through and get everything off the ground. But, how do we ensure that happens as a company? We're in constant day-to-day communication with the factory. They're sending us questions. They're giving us video updates. They're giving us photos. They're sending relevant documents. We're beginning to talk to our QC company. We're beginning to talk to our logistics companies. We're beginning to talk to the people who are going to help us on the import side. Like, those conversations need to happen in order for us to process this order.
And we personally can't do that unless we have money in hand ready to send. Like, we've already exhausted, especially with the current climate where everybody's hitting up these factories and saying, we're going to do 5 million units or 10 million units or whatever, and then nothing happens. We've already exhausted that thing of talking to the factories and saying that. Right now, it's one of those things where if we go back to these factories that we've had conversations with and we're saying, hey, we have another potential order, can you do? They're just going to stop responding. We have to be money in hand, paying down a deposit, then going to the QC companies and the other partners that we have in order to make sure that the stuff is done correctly.
So I got a supplier on the phone last night with one of our brokers. We did a video call, and I just said, you know what, I really think that you need to ask some of these questions to the people that we're talking to. Just to get some perspective, because I have a really good relationship to somebody who's works as a distributor for one of the major 3-ply factories in all of China, and he also has access to a network of other factories through that relationship. So we got on a video call with him and another buddy of mine who helped to translate. And we asked them, because there's some people out here in America who are saying they can get mass quantities on letter of credit, and they're just like, no, well, we're going to do it in escrow. We would never do it without terms. And I'm asking him point blank, as someone who's on the ground with the largest 3-ply manufacturer, I might have to fact check that, but they're definitely one of the biggest 3-ply factories in the world. hands down. And he's saying, well, yeah, well, we don't do that. There's no chance. He goes, maybe, let me ask around. Maybe I could find a factory that would be willing to take that on. But it's just like, he's like, why would we send these all across the world and put ourselves at great financial risk and a financial burden when we have hundreds of other orders coming in every day and everybody wants to pay up front?
It makes no sense in this current climate. Like, I mean, of course, if you are, the US government and you're approaching a factory last year, after Chinese New Year or whatever during the summer and being like, hey, we want to place $100 million order with you. That is very attractive. And hey, but we need to do an, letter of credit. We need X payment terms. I mean, Walmart does this all the time, right? Like they do it all the time. And the factories accept that. But in this situation, when there is no shortage, it's not just Walmart, it's any random Target, it's any random private seller, it's the shops in the EU, it's the African government, it's the Australian government, it's every corner of the planet is asking for the same thing, and they're getting hundreds of them coming through. And some people, maybe some private companies maybe are a little bit quicker to move. Maybe some of the government entities have less red tape and decisions to make before they place an order. So if you're coming in and feeling like, well, we usually do it like this, these are not the normal times. The best thing that you can do is find somebody else that, is on the ground and is credible. And what I'm curious about is like, what's funny about this whole situation is, okay, so we provided all this information and certifications. The certifications we've given, no one has come back to us and said, this is fake.
Yeah, nobody's challenged any of the documentation you provided.
So that's one. The second thing I would also ask is like, how come nobody's asked us to provide client references? Like, why hasn't anybody been like, okay, you guys are, sourced in Asia, you operate in Hong Kong and China. Can I talk to, some other people in the States and Canada and Europe who've processed orders with you over the last couple of years? We have so many credible businesses that we've worked with.
I'm actually dropping that in a couple of group chats right now.
And I mean, they could talk to Cirque du Soleil tomorrow if the U.S. government wants to contact Cirque du Soleil or Smart Teacher, which is. But I mean, they can talk to quite a few companies that we worked with in the past that would vouch for us. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, what kind of due diligence are they actually doing? That would be my question. They haven't realized really, like the reality hasn't set into what is going on.
When I sleep, you still the cover. I got this in my brain, and you're in another.